was born July 19th, 1909, in Elizabeth, New Jersey, into a middle-class family as a very shy person. And I was graduated from Rutgers College in 1931 as a physicist, wanting to make money, wanting to make it in the world. And all these projects were rather short-lived because whenever I got to a point of success, I lost interest, and because I lost interest, my project would drop away from me. At that time, I did not know what I know now, that what I was seeking was actually the answers to life itself, and that nothing I had worked at would give me that answer. And as the years went by, I became heavy with depression, with sickness, and 1952, I had 2 coronary thromboses. And after the second one, I was told I wouldn't live much longer, that I might die any day, that I shouldn't even take the effort to go up a step unless I absolutely had to. Also during that period, I was getting heavier psychologically and sicker physiologically, and so I was seeking aid. And I had 4 years of psychoanalysis, 4 times a week, under an associate of Freud, and this was the early 40s. And after 4 years of psychoanalysis, I was discharged with, quote, "Some people cannot be helped," unquote. However, I never said die. And after the second heart attack, after 3 days of cogitating with intense fear astir, I was extremely fearful of dying. But I realized, I said to myself, "You're still breathing, Lester, there's still a chance." So I sat me down and began thinking on an around-the-clock basis. But then, after the second heart attack and when I was told I wouldn't live, I said to myself, "Lester, you are stupid, stupid, stupid." Having lived 43 or so years and having reached the end of the line without happiness, without health. Therefore, all this knowledge that you have accumulated is of no avail. I had studied Watson's behaviorism in the 30s, Freud in the later 30s and early 40s. I had studied the philosophies. I had studied logic. I studied economics. I studied all the major fields of man. And with all that knowledge, there I was at the end of the line, making me realize that the accumulated knowledge of man was of no use. And so then I decided, start from scratch. Forget all that knowledge. Begin from point zero and see what you can pick up. So I posed the questions: what am I? What is this world? What is my relationship to it? What is mind? What is intelligence? What is happiness? And I began by asking myself, what do I want out of life? And the answer was happiness. And I said, what is that? Oh, that's getting everyone's approval. And that was a shock to me because I realized I was getting large amounts of approval from my family, from my friends, from most people that I knew. And here I was miserable. investigating further, I went into the moments when I was feeling happiest. And I discovered something which to me was startling at the time, that it was when I was loving that I was happiest. That happiness equated to my capacity to love rather than to being loved. That was the starting point. I began correcting all my thoughts and feelings in that direction, from that of wanting to be loved to that of loving. And in that process, I discovered another major thing that kind of shocked me. I saw that I wanted to change this entire world, and that was the cause of my ulcers, or one of the major causes of it. On realizing how much I wanted to change things in this world, and that made me a slave of this world, I made the decision to reverse that. And then I began letting go of all my want and need to control this world. And in the process of following out these two directions, of actually unloading all the subconscious concepts and pressures in those directions, I discovered I was getting happier, freer, lighter, and feeling better in general. On seeing that this direction was good, I made the decision that if a slice of the pie tastes good, I want the whole pie. And I decided not to let go until I got that whole entire pie of happiness, and with it the answer to what am I, what is this life, what is my relationship to it. This decision allowed me to, as I claim, get the answer to life itself in a matter of 3 months' time. And I actually believe if I did it, anyone could do it, if they had that much want to. And in that 3-month period of time, all the ailments I had in my physical body corrected. All my miseries dropped away. And I ended up in a place in which I was happy all the time with no sorrow. Not that the world stopped pushing against me. It continued. But I was in a place where I could resolve things almost immediately. Having cleared out all the negative fears, all the negative I cannots, I would focus right in on the answer to every problem and get it very quickly. And so my whole life turned around from being one of formerly being depressed and sick to one of being happy all the time and in perfect health all the time. One of the things that happened in this process was identification with others. I saw that we are all related. We are all interconnected. Our minds are interconnected. Each mind is like a radio broadcasting and receiving station. That we are all tuned into each other unconsciously. We're just not aware of it. And that if a lot of the suppressed energies are allowed out, this becomes obvious to us. And once we identify with everyone else, it's just natural that we want everyone else to discover what we have discovered. That life was meant to be beautiful, meant to be happy all the time with no sorrow, meant to be with perfect health. And so, from that reaching that high point of understanding in 1952, from that time on, I have wanted to help others discover what I discovered. In the early years, I worked with people, person to person. Help for each one was dramatic and very effective. However, they would develop a dependency upon me, which would cause them to expect me to do it for them. And this was unconscious in them. And the reason for that is, from the day of birth until we are teenagers, everyone does have someone taking care of everything for them, their parents. And it's so deeply ingrained in us today, we still expect and want someone to do it for us. However, no one can do it for us. We must do it by ourselves. The only thing someone else can do for us is to show us the way, show us the method, show us how to get moving in a right direction. So for the first 20 years or so, after giving this freely to anyone who would listen to me, I realized that the amount of accomplishment was rather minimal, working one-on-one. And it came to me that to get this out to the majority, it would be necessary to set it up in a methodology that could be given out by others to others. And so I evolved the present system, a very specific method of undoing all the suppressed emotions, all the negative feelings, of undoing the inhibitions and compulsions, which are the things that are driving the world today in wrong directions. We have accumulated so much of suppressed energy that it is coming out in devious directions, upsetting our purpose in life, our goals, to the point where instead of making life a beautiful harmony here on earth, we are using the best of our energies in a direction of destroying this earth. We are today poisoning the air, poisoning the water, poisoning the food, and poisoning our minds through radio, TV, and movies. And we have gotten to the place where we cannot see how we are driving ourselves downward, and we are continuing in it. And the only way out of this thing is to first recognize that all this accumulated suppression is the cause of this downward direction, and that this accumulated suppression must be released in order to get the world in the right direction, in order to get each of us as individuals in the right direction, in order to get us happy, healthy, and prosperous. This method that we have will do just that. However, it being experiential, it must be taught to each one how to release these suppressed energies so that these negative, unwanted feelings are dumped until we are rid of them. And we discover that when these negative energies are out, the efficiency of our minds are at their highest. Thinking is clear. We have a clarity